Welcome, everybody, to Spotlight for Entrepreneurs podcast. I'm your host, Pamela Weir, and today we're speaking with Zander with Zander Holt, providing natural and organic approaches to male performance. But first, a word from our sponsor. Today's sponsor is My Work Belt, where you have all of your business and project management tools in one place. Everything from inventory, budgets, customer service, workflow, and even payroll, and much, much more. So go check out the link in the description below and get your membership today. As I said, we're speaking with Zander Pavlik with Zander Holt. Welcome to the spotlight, Zander.
Thank you, Pamela. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, thank you for coming. You have a very unique business, and I would like to ask you what was your pivot point or inspiration point in providing these types of services for men? And how did you know that there would be enough men out there that would like this approach before you got started?
Yeah, so what I do basically is I help men perform naturally in the bedroom. So without any kind of drugs or surgeries. And really, what got me started with it is me having my own issues. And, you know, I've basically been a natural type person for most of my life. Even as a kid, I was really interested in nutrition and herbs and all that kind of stuff. So when I started to experience this problem, for me, it was both. I had both erectile dysfunction and premature ejaculation. It was a bad situation, and I was married at the time, and it was taking a toll on my marriage, and I was frustrated. But I didn't want to go take those ED drugs. I want to try to figure it out naturally. And doing research on trying to do that, I found that it was very difficult to find that information and figure out where the source was. I mean, it was mostly when you go searching for it, it was just a bunch of products trying to, sell you to buy various herbal supplements and all that kind of stuff, which I tried, and some of which helped a little bit, but it didn't get me where I wanted to go. But what really turned it, really made this become serious for me in the sense that I needed to figure this out and how it eventually became a business is fortunately for me, I had a friend that came to visit me and opened up to me about this. During our conversation, he actually started to talk about his erectile dysfunction. And I was all ears because I was experiencing it, even though I didn't bring that up at the time. And the story he told me just completely freaked me out. I mean, he talked about how the doctor put him on ED drugs. They kind of sort of worked for him, but they gave him severe heartburn. He would wake up at night with his nose burning, had all kinds of gut issues, would flush his face. I mean, he really hated the side effects, but they kind of sort of worked for him until they didn't, which was
Mm.
about a year later, right? They stopped working. And the doctor then put him on something called Trimix, which I had never heard of before. So basically, Trimix is where you take a needle that's an injection that's full of some very powerful chemicals, and you inject it directly into your penis in order to force an erection. And just hearing about that was freaking me out. But then he told me how one time he did this. Well, first of all, he talked about some of the downsides to this. I mean, other than injecting yourself, you have to keep it in the refrigerator. So that means he had to bring all the dates back to his place. He tried to sneak it. After sex was over, the erection wouldn't go down. So he would try to explain that. So it was a whole thing, right? But really, what really freaked me out was one time he said that he injected himself and it just would not go down. It was like 12 hours went by and he had to go. So he went to the emergency room because he had freaked out. But then he wouldn't go into the emergency room. He said he was literally in the parking lot with ice pack on his crotch because he was trying to get this thing to go down. And worried because the doctor said that if it went on too long, you could actually end up with a situation where you got to get an amputation.
Yeah, that's
It,
really dangerous, isn't it?
very dangerous, right? Because think about it this way, the blood's trapped in there. And when we're talking hours, we're talking 12 hours now, and it's not circulating. There's no more oxygen getting in there, right? So tissue starts dying.
Mm.
And that's why they can have to do an amputation sometimes. So he freaked out. He wouldn't go into the emergency room because he was afraid of that. He went back home, he went to the internet actually first, found a guy on a forum who actually had the same situation, and this is what he did, the same thing he did. He took the exact same needle that he used to inject himself, put it back into him, right? Re-put it into a vein in his penis, took the plunger out and let the blood come out.
Oh,
But the blood, he said, was thick and black, just like used motor oil, because there was no more oxygen in it.
oh, that's scary.
It was very scary. So that when I heard that story, I was like, I didn't even know that existed. And it was like there's a progression. They tend to take you to ED drugs, and then when those stop working, they put you on Trimix. And when that stops working, they recommend a penile implant surgery, which is completely irreversible. And I'm like, this is crazy. I have got to figure this out. So that's what made me spend all this time to figure this stuff out. And then through years of research, I basically mapped out what I call the erection ecosystem, all these different pieces that go into a man having healthy, regular erections throughout his lifetime. And that involves body, mind, and emotions. And
And that's part
figuring,
of your
yeah, go ahead.
F3 solutions, isn't it?
I'm sorry, say that again.
I said that's part of your F3 solution.
Correct. So there's an ecosystem behind all this. And F3 is basically the three F's that address that ecosystem. So I have the ecosystem mapped out, but then on each side of the ecosystem is one of the F's. There's flow, focus, and fuel. And by addressing each one of these F's, you can address the entire erection ecosystem, which would address the body, mind, and emotions. So that's what I do, and that's different, I guess, than what most of the solutions out there, or really any of the solutions out there, is that I really address it holistically from that perspective. And that's how I got there, was that horror story I heard.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, there's all different kinds of ways we get inspired and pivot and unfortunately, hopefully your friend turned out okay. I think he did.
Yeah.
um, yes, that's good. So this is a very um, personal issue. And men don't typically like to talk about their issues. They like to keep them, you know, to themselves. So, how do you build trust with your clients and get them to open up so that they can find these natural solutions?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, because it is the truth, this is not something men typically talk about. And especially when it's come to having problems, which is why I'm so grateful that my friend did that, right? Because that's rare. Um, the main way I have found is by putting information out there. So mostly YouTube videos, just going out explaining how the ecosystem works, how to address it, and just putting out a lot of free material in terms of how to do that. And that builds a lot of trust. So they get to know me through my explanations and by understanding the ecosystem through various videos. But I have found has been the best way to build trust, because before I started the YouTube channel, I would just go out and give talks, right, out in out in the public. And it's different because no one knows me at that point. The nice thing about stuff like YouTube is people can go and watch those videos. And then after they've watched a few of them, they get to know my personality. They get to know where I'm coming from. They get to know what my system's about. So by the time they get on the phone with me, there's already somewhat of a fairly strong know, like, and trust factor there just from the material that they've watched. But I have found that's for me, particularly given this is such a personal niche, and the fact that there's so much scammy stuff out there, right? That was my biggest frustration in researching this to begin with, is there's a lot of just different products and sort of empty promises out there where there's a lot of sort of built-in skepticism because of that. So if you're in, especially if you're in a niche that is somewhat personal and private or controversial, or there is a lot of scammy stuff that is sort of baked into the cake because people are making money off of it, I would highly recommend getting out there. I think I'm a big fan of YouTube. I think YouTube is one of the best ways because video is about as close as you can get to actually being there with the person and getting to know that person. Kind of similar like when you're watching TV and
Yeah,
you get to know these characters or these actors, and it's almost like you know them even though you've never met them.
exactly. And sometimes we think that the character is a true person. So yes, I think that's a great strategy for entrepreneurs to think about is get your face out there, get your whole thing out there and build trust with your audience first before and let them come to you that way. I think that's a great way, especially with something that's so deeply personal. So on your website, you also have an assessment, and it helps men to identify some of the triggers they may have to these issues. Can you tell us about maybe two or three of the top triggers and what kind of solutions you offer?
Yeah, sure. So what you're referring to is a Zander Holt assessment. So what that does is it's a short little assessment. I made it so that you could do it real quick. I have much more in-depth tools that I also use, but this at least gets you in the ballpark, and you can take it in less than a minute. So what it does basically is it narrows down what I call your primary core alpha inhibitor. So what I mean by alpha inhibitors are things that basically decrease our ability to function or feel like a man, right? That could be lowering our testosterone, lowering blood flow. I mean, all kinds of different things that are involved with this. I call those alpha inhibitors. Well, there's six core ones. There's a lot of ones underneath that, but you can basically categorize them into six different core alpha inhibitors. And they're what block the natural functioning. If you're healthy, truly healthy as a man, you should be getting regular ongoing erections throughout your lifespan. This is a big challenge for us in the modern day world because these alpha inhibitors, most of these alpha inhibitors did not exist except
Mm.
for maybe the past 40 to 50 years ago. I mean, these are things that our grandfathers really never had to deal with. Certainly my grandfather, it at least not to the same extent. We're talking about all these chemicals in our foods and our water, high-speed internet porn, which causes a lot of problems, especially with younger men.
Stress and
Yeah,
anxiety,
go ahead.
stress and
Yes,
anxiety,
stress and anxiety,
diabetes, obesity,
it,
all kinds of stuff.
obesity.
Yeah.
Yeah, being cut off from nature, just not getting enough sun. There's all kinds of things that we deal with today that are just unnatural that cause us not to function the way that we're meant to. And it's not, I don't think it's anything intentional, but a lot of the advice out there that's given for health, even men's health, is not really optimized for men. And
Mhm.
that's kind of because if it was, if you were truly healthy as a man, you would be getting like consistent morning wood. You wouldn't be having any problems in the bedroom. I mean, even now you'll see in certain countries that don't have as much of this, I mean, they're still siring children in their 80s, right?
Mhm.
So this is the way it used to always be. And the problem is now people think it's normal not to function like this when it's not normal. It's common now, but that's not normal. That's not the way it should be. For instance, the first client who ever contacted me was 19 years old,
Oh my
right?
goodness.
Yeah, in fact, I have a coaching client right now who is 19. Because of this stuff that once again our grandfathers never had to deal with. It was unthinkable when I was growing up for teenagers to be having this problem. But
Yeah.
now it's a very common problem. So yeah, that's basically what the Zander Holt assessment is, though. It's just a simple tool of a way to say, okay, this is not the only problem necessarily, but this is probably the main issue you're having right now. So this would be a good area to focus on, so you don't have to worry about the other stuff so much. It helps you cull things down so that you can just narrow it down to the most essential things for you to focus on to get your performance back.
Yeah, that makes really good sense.
Mhm.
So, you have a wide variety of services and products that you offer. Um, Besides your one-on-one counseling and consulting, what are some of the other services that you provide to men?
Yeah, so well, a variety of them. Um, I I do a lot of coaching, and simply one of the reasons I do a lot of coaching is that it once again it's a very personal issue, right? So and it's a very not just personal in terms of I don't want to necessarily talk about this with other people, but also what's causing it for the individual. So I would say coaching's number one. That's what I do most of. But I have a variety of products too, like what I call the Rock Hard for Life formula, which basically addresses a sort of a do-it-yourself, addresses the whole ecosystem. I have another one that teaches you how to last as long as you want in the bedroom and have what's called non-ejaculatory orgasms. So it teaches men how to have multiple orgasms without a refractory period. And then
That's
I have,
possible?
yeah, go ahead.
That's possible?
Oh, 100%.
Awesome.
And it's not necessary. It is awesome. It's a superpower, and that's what I do explain to men is that it takes for most men this takes a while, right? It's a training process. It's not something. Although I have met a couple of men who learned how to do this early on in life, but that's pretty rare,
Yeah.
right? Most guys they got to really learn how to do it, but it's completely possible, and not only is it possible, I highly recommend it because well, for a variety of reasons, but one of which is that you could just keep the experience going and going for as long as you want. And it keeps that life energy inside of you. Unless you want to spill it, you can always spill it whenever you want to, but you can keep it inside of you and have more of this Kundalini energy that you can work with.
Mm.
And then I have what's called the accelerator, which is my hub, which is gets you access to all those courses, to me, as well as something I call the F3 Academy, which is a simple way of addressing the entire ecosystem where I give you little tools every month that it takes about 10 minutes a day to address. So it's kind of a simple, easy way to do it. So I do a variety of things. You're right.
Yeah, that's a great idea. So, have you or do you have ways of speaking to the women of the men that you're consulting?
I do, but that's something that I've been meaning to flush out more for a long time. Um, when I actually started this, I was actually serving both. Like when I was talking about before I started YouTube and I was going out and doing public speaking, I was selling my services to both men and women to help them each. But what I had found is that, well, first of all, I'm not nearly as much of an expert when it comes to women because when it comes to men, I've done a lot of research because I was helping myself, right? But also, what I found is the way men and women think about and talk about sex are very different.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult to just come up with languaging that hits both genders. But what I will say, what I do want to do more of, and if there's any women that are listening to this and want to reach out to me that want help with this or want to help me develop this, is to help women help their men.
Yeah.
Because I get a lot of that too. That I do get a lot of questions on in terms of, how can I address this without him thinking I'm, attacking him or, this turning into an argument and that type of stuff. And there's certainly things I can help with that. Because when I was first researching this and thinking about turning this into a business, I went through all these forums, these erectile dysfunction forums. And what I found was very interesting is that there's twice as many women on those forums than men.
I
So
bet.
yeah, so I mean they're very interested in getting this solved, um, but I have not explored that enough, Pamela. That is something I definitely want to do more of.
Well, that's great. But ladies, you need to know that on the Zander Holt website, there is a cookbook that you can purchase, and you can start making these recipes without your guy even knowing. So I encourage you to at least reach out and get the cookbook. I think that's a wonderful idea.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. That was actually one of my idea. I mean, one of my thoughts in creating that cookbook is it is sort of a stealth way of at least starting to address this.
Right. And supporting your guy and
Exactly. In a
getting,
healthy way.
yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Well, I appreciate our interview here today. One last question for you, and that is, what advice do you have with other entrepreneurs that might have an innovative idea or inspiration?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Um, I guess a couple of different things that are really important. One of which is your idea. Make sure you put that idea out there first and see what kind of response it gets. Um, YouTube's a great way to do this, but you could do it through any kind of social media. Does it get traction? Just even the idea? Are people interested in it? Are there other people doing it? Like sometimes people are under the impression that, well, I don't want to do that because there's already a lot of people in that niche. There's no one in this niche over here, but there may be a reason there's no one in that niche. There's just not enough interest, right? So that's one. Proof of concept is really important before you end up putting a lot of time and energy because you may be onto something, but you might need to tweak it a little bit. And it's better to figure out those little tweaks before you start investing a whole lot of time and money in it. So that would be one. The other I would say is get in contact and befriend people who are already doing entrepreneurial stuff, ideally stuff that's related to what you're wanting to do. Ideally, that are already successful doing it so that you can learn from them. But I would also say be careful because I've made this mistake too. And it's not that I didn't get benefit out of it, but there's a lot of people that will try to sell you very high end masterminds. And if you're just getting started, like I did that and I got a lot of benefit, don't get me wrong, but it took me a long time to recoup that money. Where if I would have just found some more entrepreneurs that were on my wavelength and we sort of mastermind together, or I just maybe got into something that was a little less expensive but was also helpful, I think that would have been better because it takes pressure off. Because a lot of times they'll kind of sell you in that, like, yeah, but you're going to make all this money. Well, maybe you will if you take it to a certain level, but you don't want extra pressure put on you, right? Try to bootstrap it as much as you can, but also try not to do it in isolation. Try to do it with other entrepreneurs that could potentially help you, but not at a high price tag.
Good point. Thank you. Well, thank
You're
you for
welcome.
being here today. Everyone, make sure you go to zanderholt.com. He's given you two freebies for coming today, and one would be the assessment. Make sure you go to the website and take the assessment if you need to. And the other one is he's also giving you his smoothie recipes, so you can go download those as well. So make sure you go to zanderholt.com for those. Um, our podcast, Spotlight for Entrepreneurs, in production with Almonds Productions, a division of LTE Media in collaboration with Red to Black Profits. And until next time, everybody, stay in the spotlight.